the beginning again, just for the sake of the recording, very quickly, okay? So let me go back. Right, so today we are going to talk about the 6 different signposts of close reading. And these are signposts that point you to what the author is trying to show you in the text. That way, it may not be very obvious. Very much like a signpost on the road shows you when there's a change in direction, speed, or duration of the path. A signpost in the text will signal to you that there's a change or significant moment that's happening in the story you need to pay attention to. These are the 6 different signposts: contradictions and contrasts, aha moments, tough questions, words from the wiser again and again, and memory moments, right? All of you have raised your hands or shaken your hands just now. So from what I understand, aha moments, tough questions, again and again, seem to be the ones that you're not really clear about. So I'll spend a bit more time explaining them to you, okay? But contrast and contradictions is what we are talking about first. So again, I repeat myself, a contrast or contradiction is when the character or the plot behaves in a way that is unexpected, totally opposite to what you might expect. An example that we were just discussing with Gabriel contributing was that a character just experiencing a tragic or an extremely sad sequence of events, suddenly bursting into laughter instead of into tears. That would be an example of contrasting or contradictory actions in the story. And I was just making the point that why would the author do that, right? Obviously, because the author wants to point your attention to the character and make you question whether your assumptions about the character have been correct all along. For example, you might think the character is a good character, but at that moment when he suddenly bursts into laughter in the midst of tragedy, you might question your assumption. Is this character really good? Is he really, in his heart, a good character? That kind of questioning is exactly the signpost that the author has put in the story to make you think deeper, right? So you don't just read at surface level, you go deeper to question what is in the text and in the characters' hearts, okay? What is below the surface. So contrasts and contradictions help you to stop and pay attention to something that you might have thought was one thing, but is actually something else entirely, okay? And many, many good storytellers, good authors, and good videographers use this technique, right? If you might have watched a movie, right, where it's raining and then, it's like miserable weather, right? It's gray outside and it's horrible. It's very like depressing. But then suddenly you see this character smiling and dancing in the rain, right? That scene makes you question what exactly is going on in that scene. Is it really a sad scene? Is it really depressing, right? So these are examples of contrasts and contradictions that may occur in the text that will help you to pay attention to important, hidden, or under the surface details that you might not have otherwise seen when you read the story the first time through. Okay, so look out for the signposts of contrast and contradiction. And when you see this thing that sticks out, that doesn't belong, that is unusual, right? Usually, right, the author's objective is to make you stop, like, bang, just an immediate emergency brake, and then think about what you are reading or seeing to reflect and ask yourself, why? Right? That's always the objective of the author for you, the reader, to stop in your tracks and ask yourself, wait a minute, that's unusual. Why? And when you do that, you go a little deeper into the reason why the author is writing. What is the author trying to accomplish by making you pay attention to this particular character's reaction or this particular scene's unusual nature? Okay, so it can be a scene, it can be a character, but as you read, look out for these contrasts and contradictions, unusual things that stick out, that make no sense, it seems, at first, but as you think deeper, will begin to reveal certain hidden parts of the text. It's kind of like if you play computer games, right? There's a secret door, right? There's something in the scenery that sticks out like a sore thumb. And when you bump into it, or when you hit it, or when you do something to it, it triggers a hidden, level, right? That you then are able to access and then gives you a lot more opportunities to develop yourself, right? Same thing in a story. When you find these like buried treasure, these signposts, there's a term for it, right? In gamer talk, there's a term for it, right? I can't remember it offhand. Maybe later, if you can remember, what is it? What is it? You know, hidden, something hidden, you know, that gives you a bonus. Anybody? Anybody knows the term for it? No? Doesn't come to mind? Never mind. Not important. We continue, okay? So contrasts and contradictions are precisely there to reveal to you a hidden aspect of the story, right? And make you ask the question why. Okay? How many of you have watched the Disney movie Tangled? Right? Is the Rapunzel remake, Walt Disney's remake of Rapunzel, right? How many of you have watched it? Yeah, just to see. Okay, not a fan of Disney princesses, many of us. Okay, anyway, later on, you can go to this link, you can click on it, you can watch this particular introduction clip. This is the moment, right, when the princess discovers her identity. Okay, so that there is something in this particular extract that shows you the nature of contrasts and contradictions. Okay, right? So it's something about what the character does that will surprise you. So this is something you can explore. But do you all understand contrasts, contradictions? All good, everybody? I'm 1/6 of the way through. Let me move on. No questions? Okay, good. So next one is aha moment, right? This is the one that you're not really very sure about. Okay, the aha moment simply refers to a part in the story when the character realizes something or figures something out. Okay, so the character may have been, in the dark, maybe, totally unsure, didn't know what happened. By the way, if you watch the Tangled scene, you will find that at some point Rapunzel figures that she's the lost princess that the stories talk about, right? She figures it out while she's lying on her bed and she's looking at all the different like murals and patterns on the top of her bed sheet, right? So she's looking at it and suddenly it clicks, right? That moment when the character realizes something is called the aha moment. Not you, not you realizing something, the character. Okay, so when the character figures something out, light bulb goes on, something happens in the story. It could be a dialogue, aha, that's what he was trying to say, could be something in the dialogue, could be something in the story. The aha moment again signals that the author is trying to point your finger at something which you need to pay attention to, which is crucial to the story, which will occur in the question, all right, which will come out later on when they ask you questions about the text. So please pay attention to when there is a moment where the character realizes, understands, or totally sees through the trickery of the other characters. Okay, the aha moment when they realize what is actually going on, right? And this is probably, likely going to be the theme of the story, the main idea that flows through the story. The character becomes wise to the fact that there's something going on, right? Very often you'll read stories, the character doesn't know what's going on, right? And has to get told what's going on. And at some point, the character will realize that there's something going on. That moment is called the aha moment. Do you all understand what's the aha moment now? Give me a thumbs up if you understand aha moment. Yeah, okay. So aha moment is literally when you understand what's going on in the story. Not you, but the story. The character in the story, right? Not you, but the story. The character in the story, okay? Right, that's the aha moment, okay? What do you look out for? The word realized, the word saw, right? The word came to me, the word finally understood. So any of these things can tell you that the character arrives at an earth-shaking, life-changing realization. And that is a signpost that points you to this moment is super important. Please understand what it is and then be able to answer questions about it. So anytime you see these signposts, contrasts and contradictions, aha moments, stop and look in detail at what's going on and fully understand what the character is experiencing, because the questions will revolve around these significant moments in the story. Okay, and of course it will rightly be a think and search or write their question, because it's a realization, right? It happened just then, so it's going to be right there, or it's going to be think and search, two different places that put together to make something, oh, I figure it out. Okay, so think and search or write their questions lend themselves to aha moments, right? So far, so good. Coming to the halfway mark, right? So contrast and contradiction, very clear. Aha moments, very clear. Let's move on. Okay, I will let you do this activity by yourself, right? Right, let's move on to tough questions. Okay, now this one is again, something very familiar to us. We have learned this in composition. I've taught you about internal, external conflict, right? Okay. Can you give me an example of an internal conflict, please? Somebody raise your hands, wave it. Give me an example of internal conflict. You should be super familiar. Diago.
You are very poor and then you need to buy something that you want in a supermarket, and then you're deciding whether to steal it or not.
Okay, good. Right, thank you. So temptation. Temptation to steal is an example of an internal conflict. What else? There are so many, right? Give me a few other examples so we can just spin it off. Quick, someone else. Besides temptation to steal, what else? Okay, Solomon, go. And then after that, Xuan Yi.
To cheat.
Sorry?
Temptation to cheat.
Temptation to cheat, okay. Can I have something else besides like temptation to do something wrong? Xuan Yi?
I wanted to say the same thing.
Okay, right, never mind. Anybody else has any other kind of temptation? Yes, Jairus, or any other kind of conflict internal? Yes, Jairus, go. And Jairus, can you turn on your camera if possible? Thank you. Jairus. Yes, go ahead, please, Jairus. Can't hear you. No volume. Nope, nothing. Okay, please try to figure out your volume issue. Kanish, go.
Temptation to help a lady, but if you help the lady, you'll be late for a birthday party.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again?
Temptation to help an old lady cross the road, but if you help the lady, you'll be late for a birthday party.
Okay, so is being torn between helping someone and being punctual for a birthday party. Thank you. That's good. Yeah, so that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. Thank you. Solomon, go.
Then the main character is poor and save enough money to buy a present for himself, but he passed by a charity, then doesn't know if he has to donate the money or keep it.
Awesome, right? So between your own selfish desire for a present and a selfless act of donating to charity, perfect, beautiful. Thank you for that. Wonderful. Jairus, do you want to try again or you can't figure it out? Can or not? Okay, we're still not hearing you. Sorry, Jairus. No sound. Sorry. Okay, never mind. We'll try to figure it out along the way. Okay. So yes, very good. You all understand internal conflict, right? So when your character in the story hits a tough question, struggles about whether to do something or not, that's a tough question, right? And in the same way, all good stories everywhere out there will have the character facing a tough decision. Every good movie for the matter, every good drama series for the matter, will have the character repeatedly hitting tough questions. And then you will see, right, over the course of the way the character deals with these tough questions, right, the character of that person will be reviewed. Whether he is a upstanding, righteous person who does the right thing no matter what, or he is a conniving, scheming, evil person who tries to cut corners and, just take advantage of people, that is revealed in the way that the character hits a tough question and handles it. Hits and handles the question. Do you understand? So always pay attention in the part of the story where something bad goes wrong or something wrong goes even worse, right? That's when tough questions happen and the author is trying to shine a light on the character's internal state, whether the character is good or bad, or whether the character is bad becoming good, or whether the character is good becoming bad. Have you all seen movies or stories of good characters becoming bad? Have you all seen that? Right? Like, a policeman who starts out as very righteous, but then in the end, he gives in to corruption and he takes bribes or something like that, or, that kind of direction can happen both ways. It can be good to bad, or it can be bad to good, right? And in the story, that shift from good to bad or bad to good is a tough question. It confronts the character and the character's response determines whether he continues on to be good or bad. And that's the important part of the story. It's a big signpost. Okay, so please understand tough questions. So contrast, contradictions, very important, shows you something that sticks out, right? And then before this, we had aha moments, right? Showing you how the character's realization shifts the story. And then now we have a tough question, right? So when the character meets a difficult situation or an internal temptation or a difficult choice, how the character behaves also is a signpost of what is important in the story. Are you all following so far, everybody? Right? You will realize that all good stories contain all of these elements, right? There's an aha moment by the character. You know, the character grows into a realization. There is a contrast and contradiction, right? Character very poor, living in a very rich neighborhood, for example, you know, some contrast and contradiction that shows you the difference. And then there's a tough question, character who is very poor, living in a rich neighborhood, trying to put up appearances, trying to pretend that he's rich, you know, that kind of thing. Tough, difficult decisions that the character has to go through. All of this is what is used by good storytellers to write very good stories. That's why you continue watching your drama series every week, right? Because you want to find out what happens next. Does the character become evil? Does the character become good? Does the character get rich? Does the character lose all his money and become poor, right? So there's all of this in all good stories. So if you read properly, you can find these signposts and you can very easily answer questions because you're focusing on what's important and not the unimportant details, okay? You're not distracted. Next, okay? Tough questions. I'm not going to do the activity. Words from the wiser, okay? This one is pretty straightforward. It's basically someone older or someone wiser in the story telling your character something, okay? How many of you watch Star Wars? You all know Star Wars? Yes? Yeah? You know this little green character called Yoda? Yeah? You know the green wrinkled character called Yoda who has very powerful force, you know, he will point at things and things will move around kind of thing, right? Then he fights with the lightsaber, right? He's super small, but he's like really, really super old and super wise and super powerful, right? Yeah. So Yoda is an example of a wise character. Now, Yoda trains someone very famous. Who is the person that Yoda trains? Those of you who are Star Wars fans. Who is Yoda's #1 disciple? Anyone? Anyone? Really? No Star Wars fans here? Anybody? No? Okay. Who? Anybody wants to try? No? Yes? Okay. Solomon, who?
Obi-Wan.
No, right? Obi-Wan was his disciple, but his most famous disciple was Luke Skywalker, right? Who is the star of the entire franchise, right? He is the one that ultimately restores, you know, justice and peace to the galaxy, right? Okay, so anyway, when Yoda tells Obi-Wan, or not Obi-Wan, but in this case, Luke Skywalker, what he should do, gives him wisdom. That's the words from the wiser, okay? So in every story, there's always someone wiser and older. For example, Harry Potter. Can you think of who is older and wiser in Harry Potter? Who is the older, wiser character in Harry Potter? Come on, those of you Harry Potter fans, right? Ariel, go.
Dumbledore.
Dumbledore, for example, right? Yeah, Dumbledore is one such character. Of course, Dumbledore is not the only one, right? There are many older, wiser characters in the stories of Harry Potter, in what's her name's stories, right? Okay, so you think of many stories, there's always someone older and wiser, because that person will give wisdom to the younger character so that he becomes better, or he becomes wiser, or he becomes more good at what he's supposed to do, right? It's like the Shifu teaching the disciple how to get even better at his martial art or whatever, all right? So there's always the word from the wiser, and you must pay attention to that, because in the story, the word from the wiser always signals a change in the story, okay? Yes, Gabriel?
Can you name another example?
Oh yeah, sure, go ahead.
Like Spider-Man, like with great power comes great responsibility.
Who said that?
The
Uncle?
which
Yeah,
one?
Uncle Jim, right? Yeah, Uncle Jim, right? His soon to be dead uncle who is shot by the robber who Spider-Man lets go, right? Yeah, right. So you you get the idea, right? There's always a wiser character that then goes on to impart his wisdom to the younger character. So look out for that instance in every story that you read. And I don't just mean comprehension. Any book you read, right, worth its salt, any good book will usually have a senior character who is older and wiser, imparting his wisdom to the junior characters who are younger and who are eager to learn and who are humble enough to listen. Right? You always see the proud characters that, oh, I don't care about you, I don't know, you're old, you're nothing to say to me. They always fail. But the younger characters who are humble and listen and who learn from the older ones usually succeed in the story. So that's an important signpost that is established in any good story. Okay, so look out for that, the words from the wiser. So I say again, first one, contrast and contradiction. Second one, aha moment. Third one, you see, Mr. Pang already, tough question. And then fourth one, words from the wiser. Okay, and then fifth one, again and again. Okay, so we're coming to an end. We're coming to an end. Okay, so bear with me, and then we'll do a little bit of a quiz just to consolidate the content. Okay, again and again simply refers to a recurring motif or a recurring word or phrase or idea that keeps on appearing in every part of the story. Again and again and again, it keeps on appearing. Okay, so it's important that you pay attention to anything that's repeated in a story, because it's never by accident. It's never because the author fell asleep and repeated his idea again. No, it's always the author purposefully introducing something twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times to drive home an important point about what he's trying to say. So if you think of, let's say, okay, we were talking about Harry Potter, right? Can you think of something that always appears in every Harry Potter story, regardless of whether it's Order of the Phoenix or Philosopher's Stone or whatever? Clarice, yeah.
That Voldemort killed Harry's parents.
Okay, so Voldemort is an important recurring factor, right? Voldemort's always there in the background, right? Whether he's directly there or not, whether he directly appears or not, or he appears through another character, Voldemort is a recurring motif. So Voldemort as the villain appears in every single Harry Potter book. Good, that is one recurring motif. And there's a reason for that, right? Because the author wants you to know that however happy Harry Potter is, evil is always lurking around the corner, right? That's what the author is trying to tell you. Whatever happens to Harry, whether he's having fun at the Quidditch game, or he just won a match, or he just got points for his house, it doesn't matter. In the background, there is still evil lurking, right? Voldemort is still somewhere there waiting to pounce, right? So that's the idea. Okay, good. Solomon, yeah?
The main character, Harry Potter himself.
Of course, right? Yeah, of course. The main character is obviously a recurring motif, right? Good, good, good. So these are obvious, but very clear indications, right? But of course, I'm sure you have read some stories where there is a side quest, where the main character doesn't appear, but the minor characters go on a quest by themselves. Have you read of those kind of stories before? Right? Sometimes, right, they take the main character away, just so that the side characters can have a bit more attention given to them, right? And that sometimes happens, especially in very long stories with a lot of characters, right? They give the other side characters a little bit more space, okay? But anyways, my point is they are repeated. So one thing that always repeats itself, for example, in every Harry Potter movie is the motif of magic, right? Because the whole thing is built on magic, right? The other motif that's repeated is wands, right? Have you read about all the different wands that are used by different wizards, right? Throughout all the different Harry Potter stories. And to describe what kind of wand it is, made of what kind of material, and then, using what kind of, particular process to make, and then what power this particular wand has, and then how different people using different wands can achieve different effects, that kind of thing, right? So there is a recurring motif of magic, of wands, of supernatural power that goes through all the different Harry Potter stories. So look out for anything that's repeated in a short story or long story, because that will be what the author is trying to build the theme or central idea around. Later, I will let you go back and read a story called 11, and you will see how many times the word 11 occurs in the story called 11. Okay, it's quite interesting. See how many times the author uses that motif of the number 11 in the story. Okay, so again and again simply means something that's repeated. That's basically it, right? Later, you can go and read the story by Sandra Cisneros. Sandra Cisneros is a very good author, but in this case, she's written a very short story. I think only like 2 pages. You can go and read it at your own leisure and enjoy it, right? It's called 11. Okay, so then ask yourself, why does this number 11 keep on recurring? What is the author trying to tell us by making something repeat itself over and over again? So again and again is basically what that means, okay? Finally, last one. Okay, last one. Thank you for lasting all the way through. And for 3/4 of you, here is not a mean feat. Memory moment is basically a flashback, right? You all know what flashback is, right? Okay, so in a story, right, there'll be a moment when the character thinks back on what happened in the past. Yeah, right? You know, the character is doing something in the present, and then something triggers the character's memory of what happened in the past. Okay, very recently, remember we were doing this thing about the Malay kampong and then the Chinese kampong side by side, remember, in PhD paper, right? We're talking about how the author was thinking back about how the atap houses used to be made of, you know, atap leaves and not zinc sheets. Can you remember that passage, right? So the memory, his flashback was of what the village used to be like, what the kampong was like in the old days. He would think back. So why does the character think back on this? The author is trying to tell you something there also. So be very alert to flashbacks, because the flashback will lead to certain questions in comprehension being asked later. So pay attention to the flashback, right? So let me just very quickly summarize. Let me go back to the front, the very first slide before we go into the fun part today. Thank you for enduring. So contrasts and contradictions, aha moments, tough questions, words from the wiser again and again, and memory memory moments or flashback moments are the 6 signposts that you need to look out for whenever you read a story. Do you understand all 6 now? If you do, can you give me 2 thumbs up? Not 1, but 2. If you have 1, means that you're not sure. Okay, so you know all 6 already. Are you able then to look out for all 6? Gabriel, do you know all 6? Yeah, then can I have 2 thumbs up, please? Thank you very much. Okay, awesome. All right. Thank you. All right, so I guess that we all kind of understand. Before I launch us into the, you know, the fun lookat part, okay, any questions or not? Do you expect to find all 6 in comprehension? Yes or no? No. Unlikely to get all 6, right? Which one do you think is the most common one that you can find in most comprehensions? Which one do you think? Just raise the finger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Which one? Which one do you think is most common? I see a lot of 3s and 4s, right? I see a lot of 3s and 4s. Okay. Yes, 3s and 4s are quite common. So tough questions are pretty common. Actually, contrasts and contradictions are also very common. Okay, there's always something that sticks out, right? Something that is unusual in the story, and that is what often makes the story worth telling, right? If the story is all the same, right, then usually it's not worth telling, right? There's always something that's, you know, unusual or strange about it, or something tough, right? Tough question, right? So good, thank you. Right. So if no questions, then are we ready? Okay, so let's keep one eye on the Zoom window, because I'll be showing you the progress report and everything here. Okay, I'm going to share now this portion where I have run this. Wait, let me see. Where did I? Okay, let me just stop the share for a moment. Right, I'm going to stop the recording here because I think that there's no point in recording the game section. Okay.